In today's video, we will create together the Sankey diagram with 2 levels, the Sankey diagram with 3 levels, and this one with more than 3 levels. Without further saying, let's get started. Power BI by default do not have Sankey diagram here, so instead we are gonna get more visuals. Type in here Sankey diagram, and this one from visual chart is what we are looking for. Now we have it here. If we look at the fields that we can drag in value, it gives us source, destination, weight, and the source labels. The source and the destination literally means the start point and end point of the flow, and this is the value that we wanted to measure. With these 2 levels of Sankey diagram, let's take a look at the data first. I have already created this data here. You can also find the file in below description, and you can practice on your own. We are going to use the source city, target city, and the count. This means that this amount of count of the goods was delivered from this source city to this target city. We also have columns called transition city. This is the transition stop between the source city and the target city. And there are some other columns. We are going to use these in the next steps. So for the 2 levels of Sankey diagram is pretty simple, that we can simply drag the source city, target city, and the count into here. And now we have this. To make it more visual appealing and to add more complexity, we can add some filters and add data labels and titles. This is what the results look like. I added titles, data labels, and I added filters to slice and dice. We could slice by continent and we could slice by the year. For the Sankey diagram that has 3 levels, this is what we wanted to achieve. Add a transition stop where goods stayed for a while and is heading to the target city. So you can see that there are 350 goods sent from Texas, stayed in Rome, and separately delivered to Kyoto and Shanghai, adds up to 350. But you can see that this visual only allows us to add value to source and destination. There's no such thing as a transition. So how are we going to achieve it? Let's take a look at the data structure behind that can make it work. If you see this table, you can find that the Rome is on the target and it is also on the source. So how the Power BI Sankey diagram work is that it will detect that if a value appears on both the source and the target, and if it is a transition, as it works as a target that receives goods and it works as a source that sends goods. So the flow is that the goods will flow from Chicago to Rome and from Rome to Beijing and Tokyo, for example. So in Power BI, to achieve this, we will to create a table that have source on the source, target on the transition on the target, and then transition on the source and the target on the target. So I have already created with this union function, it union 2 tables here. The first one is to select multiple columns and put source city on the source and the transition city on the target. And the second table is to put the transition city on the source and the target city on target. So the flow goes from source city to transition city and from transition city to target city. And our next step would be simple. We can simply add this visual and go to this table and drag the source to source, target to destination, and count to here. and it looks exactly like what we had here. And I also add title and details and the filters here that you can slice and dice by the year. The last practice is to create a Sankey diagram that has more than 3 levels. In my case, it's more like an aggregation rather than a flow. The diagram shows the count of goods that sent from these cities, aggregate to these countries, and sent to these countries, and further sent to these cities. Hence, there are source city, source country, target city, and the target country in this diagram. It enables us to check on a higher level. In our case, is the countries that receive and send goods, not only the cities. So in this case, the source country and the target country are both work as transition and work as both source and target. So idea is the same as the second example. If you take a look at the data behind, the idea is to put the source on the source country and the target, the source country and the source, and the target country and the target, and then target country and the source, target city and the target. So the flow goes from source city to source country to target country and finally to target city. And to build up this visual, again, we create this visual. Go to this table and put source on source, target to destination, and count. See that now the proportion are averagely, now see the proportion now are averagely attributed. And after we add the count, we can see that the count, the larger count and the smaller count are added weight to this portion. And now this is what we have. And this is the result. I add title and slicer to slice and dice, but I did not add details here because there are too much and it would overlap a bit, especially for this part and this part, but feel free to add more details to here. That's all for today. Thank you for joining me.